during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you?
If you will speak very loudly about the war, you can...
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No, you've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment, and you men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment,
if
you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
I'm joined now by the CEO of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, Ihor Michalchyshyn, and the President of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, Alexandra. It's good to see you both. Alexandra, I wanted to start with you. What was your reaction with what unfolded in the Oval Office today?
It was the most shocking and appalling display of behavior by a leader of a civilized nation that I have ever witnessed.
Why do you think it happened? You went in and it went off the rails almost right away.
I think it was a setup. I don't think that Trump is getting the kind of deal that he wanted, and he needed to scapegoat Zelenskyy. So he in advance set him up, tried to humiliate him. But I think that certainly Zelenskyy walked out with his pride intact and with his rare earth minerals in hand.
But Ihor, he does that with worsened relations with the most important backer militarily in the world right now. Where does this leave Ukraine, do you think?
Well, I think prior to his meeting with the president, he met with senators and congressmen. So I think there is as we've always said, a wider consensus to be had with American political leaders. And so Zelenskyy was there, I think, to show that. This is another step in the negotiations. I think if Trump and his administration really want these rare earth minerals, they're going to have to negotiate in good faith with Ukraine. And that's been a story itself this last week about what kind of outrageous demands were being made. Ukraine, I think, has been at the table, has been offering things in good faith, and President Zelenskyy left with his dignity intact.
But you know, the president said, President Trump said to President Zelenskyy, "You're not going to win. Your soldiers are brave, but they need our weapons." After that was over and they went to their separate rooms, the reports, Ihor, is that Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz, the Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor, went in and asked President Zelenskyy and the Ukrainian delegation to leave.
Yeah, I'm surprised President Zelenskyy didn't walk out of that room earlier. But I think that you have to remember that Trump has sent Rubio to go negotiate with the Russians directly. So there's a lot more going on in Trump's head, I think, here about how he's trying to push Ukraine into a bad deal and force occupation on them, which isn't a peace deal.
So Alexandra, he was already going there, President Zelenskyy was, signing away a vast amount of the future revenue from the rare earth and natural resources that exists inside Ukrainian territory. And then the vice president basically said, "You haven't even said thank you. You're not." It was almost like they didn't find President Zelenskyy, who's been in a state of war for multiple years now, deferential and grateful enough in that moment. I mean, what do you think this means for the relationship with the United States, not just for Ukraine, but for everybody going forward?
Look at the behavior of past Western leaders. Like Starmer went to kiss the ring. The Canadians have kissed the ring. Zelenskyy dared to disagree with him when he started to characterize the state of the war, the willingness of the Ukrainian people to fight on. And President Zelenskyy had to defend his people. He wasn't willing to compromise his dignity or his pride, his national pride.
But what happens now, do you think, in this effort toward peace? Because American military support and financial support was already a huge concern with the change in the administration. And Europe, while saying the right things, its ability to mobilize fast, certainly on the military side, is going to be a challenge. Where does this leave things?
Well, I think the Europeans have to fast track all of their commitments and their thinking around defense. I believe that there can be incentive in taking the rare earth minerals deal to the Europeans, coupled with the $300 billion in frozen assets that will give the Europeans something to work with. And I think that the longer you indulge a bully, the longer he's going to continue behaving this way. It's a risky tactic, but you put a 2-year-old in the corner.
Ihor, it's 5 weeks into this presidential term, and this has happened. I mean, what's your view of Ukraine, NATO, Europe being able to rely on the United States in the 47 months almost that remain in this presidency?
I would say none of the things that we've seen or heard have been surprising in the sense of we had heard much of this during the campaign and previously. So I think we can be reminded as this is a consistency in their position. I think that the public opinion of the American public will be key to gauge after this debacle by President Trump today. I think that President Zelenskyy has a lot of public support. He's well known, well understood in the American media, and it'll be interesting to see how that reaction makes its way through the public. I think that America is proving itself to be an unreliable ally with every step here. That the new administration thinks that the EU is a competitor, wants to take over Canada, and it wants to make deals with Russia, and that's where they're heading.
Unreliable ally almost feels like a euphemism, don't you think, Alexandra? It's almost more becoming an adversary in some cases. I mean, the threats to Canadian sovereignty, or at minimum economic security, what happened today in the Oval Office, I've never seen anything like that in a meeting between two democracies. And the threats against everybody who is an ally, it goes beyond unreliable ally at this point, it seems, potentially.
Absolutely, and I think that's a lesson that the EU, the UK, and everyone else needs to learn, and there needs to be a coordinated response to Trump. There can't be a breaking in the ranks of everybody trying to make their own deal with him. He will respond to strength, and that's what the UK, Europe, Canada need to show together collectively.
Ihor, I just wonder what you're hearing from Ukrainian Canadians. I mean, there's a lot of Ukrainians who are here, have sought refuge here since the war, and there's a lot of Ukrainian Canadians in this country. What are you hearing from people in the community about this today?
Just, again, scanning social media this afternoon and messages we've got, people are, as we said, shocked, disgusted, outraged, not surprised. I think surprised in the sense that this was a live on-air sort of show that everybody got to see. I think that our worst fears about Trump are coming, to a life here, and we're going to do everything we can as a community to rally around Ukraine. And I know the Ukrainian American community is there, and had rallies supporting Ukraine as well, just to stand with Ukraine. So there's a lot of allies of Ukraine, and this is the moment for them to step up.
Alexandra, what would you like to see, just as a final point, from the Canadian government? We've heard to this point, a measured response from Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly, continuing to voice Canada's support for Ukraine and work together with allies and stress the importance of helping in the fight because of the larger implications of it and what the stakes are, but not sort of a harsh condemnation of the United States. What do you want to hear from the Canadian government?
Well, I think the Canadian government, as I said earlier, has to take a lesson from this, because the next time they go to Washington, they could well be subjected to this same kind of behavior. And I think that Canada obviously has interests at stake here. But if they show weakness at this time, it will not end well for any of us.
I want to thank you both for your time. Alexandra Chyczij and Ihor Michalchyshyn with the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. Thank you both.
Thank you.